I'm back! I just finished a video on gratitude, but there's something else about my day I really wanted to share with you. So we're still on day 3 of my vlog. One really important lesson for many of us, and especially you if you're working in higher ed and you are a high-level leader, there's a very good chance that one of the reasons for your success is having high standards and having high expectations and wanting things a very specific way. If you were to slack off and have low standards, you wouldn't be where you are. Now, the big lesson for people with high standards is often one about realizing when something has to be controlled versus not trying to control things that we really don't need to control. I know for me, it's one of the biggest lessons that I truly got into throughout my 30s. And now in my early 40s, I am doing much better, but I still have some moments where I would like to control something that maybe isn't quite my business to control. Because you know that whatever we try to control controls us. When we need things to be a certain way and it's not that way, we can't be happy, or we get judgmental, or we get upset. There's always something that's preventing us from enjoying the moment because we have that attachment to how things need to be. And when we start voicing that need for control, that's when we become too critical. Some people start micromanaging. I mean, really the need to control is a terrible habit that we have to lose. I think the challenge is awareness. It's to understand when it's time to step in, because that's our responsibility, versus when we need to let people do their thing, because it's not so much a necessity, it's just us wanting our preferences to be met. So anyway, on a lighter note, let me tell you what happened today. So pretty much every day I like to go to the park to take a walk and meditate, and it's one of the gifts to myself that I give myself almost daily. It's really important for my well-being to have this time in nature. I work from home, so if I stayed home, trust me, I would be I would be a mess. So anyway, I get out every day. And there's a park really close to my house that's nice. There's a pond with ducks and some birds and turtles, and it's quite peaceful depending on who's around, but typically it's pretty quiet, especially after the school year is starting. At this time of year, it's just wonderful. So anyway, sometimes when I go, I get triggered if I see little kids chasing ducks and trying to catch the ducks, and they have to jump in the water. And that's the part that still gets triggered, because I'm a huge animal lover, and the way that I want animals to be treated doesn't quite match reality, and it definitely doesn't match what most people think is appropriate. So I always have to hold back and ask myself, is it just your preference, or is something really wrong? And the thing too is I absolutely can't stand unsolicited advice. I don't like judgment, and I don't like people who go to strangers and tell them what they should do. I think this is just wrong. We need to just let people be who they are, do what they do. So I hate this thing about control. And when I see kids or anybody who's making an animal uncomfortable, it does trigger me. But at the park, nobody is hurting anybody. It's just that I'd like the ducks to just be able to chill and enjoy the sun and not have to run and jump in the water to stay away from the kids. So it triggers me, but it's not really animal cruelty when we're looking at all that happens in the world. If I was to dedicate my life to fix one injustice, I don't think the ducks at the pond would really be where my attention is really necessary and where it's going to pay off. So anyway, long story short, what I do is just take a deep breath and realize that I am just being overly protective and nothing bad is happening. I need to just let it go. And today there was this lady at the park who cracked me up, because she is like me on steroid when it came to animals. Well, just that's what I thought she was in the beginning. I thought it was about the animals. So there were kids who actually were not really hurting the ducks, but she went to talk to them and to tell them not to scare them, not to chase them, and that some were sleeping, so not to be too loud so that they wouldn't wake up the ducks. So eventually she got my attention, because I was looking at her and I had mixed feelings. On the one hand, I felt like, wow, she's my hero. She's sort of pushing the agenda of being nice to animals, but at the same time, she's getting in those kids' face, and I don't know if the parents are gonna come running and have an issue with it. It's still, you know, stranger danger. Talking to you at the park, it's kind of weird. Plus, there really wasn't a situation that required an intervention. So I was kind of watching her, and then she came to talk to me, which keeps happening to me everywhere I go. So anyway, she talks to me and she says, I need to go home now, but if those kids wake up the ducks, tell them to be quiet. Don't let them wake up the ducks. And I was just puzzled, because I felt like, I don't want to be that person who goes to talk to children and say, hey, don't like, hi, this is crazy lady telling me what to do on something that is so not my business. And I was a little bit amused, so we started talking, and she was telling me how she lives really close to the park, and she considers it to be her backyard, basically. And she told me she comes every day, and she started telling me about the really bad people who feed the ducks, because it's true, giving them bread is bad. That's undeniable. But that's one of her mission, is to talk to everybody who feeds the ducks, and even if they're feeding them the right food, the implications of that too, with migration, etc., etc. And then she was telling me about when people smoke and how that's completely unacceptable, and she was getting all worked up. Then she told me about the teenagers that come and use their skateboard in that area where there specifically is a sign that says no skateboarding. So she was telling me about all the stuff she's doing, and I was just fascinated just to listen to how this woman's mind works, because in life it's really important to be able to tell the difference between those moments where you want to be the change you want to see in the world. You want to be all like Gandhi, and you really decide that you want to embody what you believe, and be that change and model through your behavior what you feel is important in the world, but not to the point of being controlling and just being that person who's super critical and takes the joy out of life, and is just getting in everybody's way and not letting people just be happy and live their life. So do good when you think it's right, but don't become a critical, judgmental, controlling person who's just driving everybody crazy. So as she was talking, I had so many different emotions. It was really fascinating watching her and watching my reaction, where at first I thought, ooh, I love her values. This is kind of cool. She is maybe creating some awareness on how people should behave if they decided to be considerate and focused on respecting nature and feeling one with the universe. There was some beauty in that. Then when she talked to me about the level of intensity with which she does all that correcting, I was amused. I thought maybe the city should send her a paycheck, because she does more than anyone I've ever seen working in this area. And I thought it was kind of funny, because in a way it gave her purpose. And I thought, why not? If she's getting purpose and fulfillment, why not? And as she kept talking, I realized she was very angry. And then it became really clear that because of that habit she has to go to the park just to correct people, she's not really able to enjoy the park. So is she really educating people? Is she really encouraging people to have a better behavior, make better choices, to maybe not smoke right next to children, and maybe not scare the wildlife, and maybe not use their skateboard where they're not supposed to? And is she doing more harm? Is she doing more good? I don't know. Probably more harm than good, because the truth is, people don't change because a random stranger got in their face and told them that they were wrong and they had to change. This is just not how we inspire people to do anything differently. It's not through criticism, it's not through shaming, it's not through confrontation. So effectiveness level probably 0. But what I know for sure is that she can't just go to the park and enjoy it, because all she sees is who's doing something that's wrong. So you may ask yourself, why is she telling me this? I don't go to the park. I don't care about the ducks. I don't tell people not to smoke. But maybe think about it in the workplace. What happens, maybe even on a daily basis, that irritates you, that annoys you? What are the things you're trying to control that are actually controlling you? Because as long as they happen, it makes you miserable. Think about it. I know many years ago, that was what, maybe 16, 17 years ago, I was fresh, arriving from France into this country and getting my first job. I was so French, I was super critical, very judgmental. I hadn't really gone too far on my personal development journey. And I remember there was a lady I had to work with. She was not at my college, but because of circumstances that I won't describe in detail, because it doesn't matter who it is and it's too easy to guess. But long story short, there was a lady I had to work with really often, and she had this really annoying habit to eat all sorts of stuff during the meetings. There were always M&Ms and cookies and whatnot. There were treats. This place was insane with sugar. And she used to eat a lot and leave crumbs everywhere. And she would lick her fingers, and then she would touch paper, and she would give us handouts. And I was just grossed out by that. All I could see was saliva on the handout. All I could see was her licking her fingers and having little crumbs. And I got pretty obsessed with how disgusted I was that to me it didn't feel very sanitary. And I just realized my previous video is about soap. I'm gonna sound like I'm totally crazy with cleanliness, but I don't really like other people's saliva or even mine or anybody on stuff. I just like things to be clean in the office and the workplace. Paper, I like the paper to be without food residue on it. And that used to drive me crazy. And I used to even think about it on my way to the airport to go to a meeting. I was already thinking there's gonna be food on my handout, which is so ridiculous. So I'm giving you this silly detail because honestly I have dozens popping in my head from clients, but I don't want anybody to feel silly if I'm using their examples, so it's better to use my own. And I've been out of the workplace for so long, working for myself for so long, I don't have those annoyances and irritations, but I remember there were some, and I used to be annoyed by certain things. Now this is something small and insignificant. Sometimes there were annoyances that were much bigger and it felt unjust. Maybe some people weren't treated right. Maybe some people had were doing special favors. I mean, all sorts of stuff. It happens in life. There are things that trigger us. But my point is, whatever we decide to criticize and we try to control controls us because we can't be happy until it changes. So just think about that. What are you trying to control that is actually now controlling you? Because your attachment, your need to see things change is getting in the way of you having a happy day and going through a happy life and good positive relationships and enjoyable emotions, because you're trying to control things that are not about leadership. They are just your own personal preferences. So that's it for today. I am leaving the office for good now, not going on with the third video, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.